Hey guys, Ben here from Second Dynasty. It is the first week of 2024. It seems weird to say because it doesn't feel like any time has passed at all. I feel like I'm doing the exact same thing that you guys left me with, which in a way is true. Because this project has taken longer than I had hoped for, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, you guys are also getting more than I intended.
It looks freaking awesome.
It does. Is it printable is the question. And to cut a quote from Newt, mostly. They don't mostly come at night, but it is mostly printed. So we have it here. I'm in the process of working on the landing gear and all of these bays and getting hidden. My original intention was to close these up completely for a first revision and then like in a month or two do a sort of... I was thinking maybe we could do a drone to go along with it, and in that pass we could add the missiles and whatnot. Instead I've chosen to just go ahead and add the option straight away. Consequently, you can see there's a misprint here on the landing gear. I need to work on that a little bit more. But in general, the landing gear actually worked quite nicely as far as the system for switching it out goes. Missile Bay 2. I have had some issues getting all the bands here. Now these bands are all about, the full and proper version works here. This side is loose because it's the older part. What else? Yeah, the cannods work, although I don't really love the way that thickens things up, but they would have had to be stick-on anyway. Again, we have this weapons base. So this is the closed version. Then I'm working on an open version, but these come out super flimsy and broke instantaneously. So they need some thickening up. So this is one of the areas where I'm just going to have to make some, I guess, some compromises as far as how it visually looks. Hi everyone, welcome to the chat. Nice to see you guys. Alvin also is back.
Whee!
Finally. You can hear his overwhelming excitement. And he does have a few things to show off. So Alvin, will you join me?
I shall join you.
So, the problem with this particular plane has been that I have not been able to work at all on the Traveller stuff this week, but Alvin has. And you can see there, I think he has the original Rampart upgrade.
Yep. Oh.
So, how does this differ, Alvin?
Okay, so what we got different here, I'm going to put one on the floor.
Get that closer to the camera.
Yeah. So this one has the new attachment system.
From Operation Maelstrom.
Exactly, for the Star fighters. And it has also the weapon slots.
So if we get it a bit closer to the camera.
Oh, thank you. So you get all the ports here that you can attach some miniguns and missile launchers and stuff like that. And we also got hatch inserts. So instead of landing gears, you can have folded. Oh, thank you, man. It's so difficult.
It is.
Yeah. So you can slot them in if you don't want to have it standing on its legs.
What are these bump things here?
They are for landing gears. We're going to show this on the other ship. The big boy, the twin-seater.
Yeah, I guess the Rampart B or something you might call
Yeah, something like that. So this one, I've installed the actual... I'm just going to get up in your face a bit there.
Yeah, go.
So you got the landing gears here instead. So this...
That's with the ones extended.
Yeah.
We did feel that the original landing gear were a little bit...
wonky.
They weren't very well balanced.
No. It was like a compromise in order to reuse the original slot, and that made it very strange. Thank you. Awesome. So these are the what do you call it? Cassettes that we saw
Yeah,
earlier
I don't know.
with the
yeah.
landing gears.
I guess housings or
Yeah,
something like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
So that's the twin seater, and there you got the cockpit with room for two. If you want to go on a vacay with your loved one or something like that.
Yeah, or it's used for training, or it's used for, e-warfare, that sort of thing. I think it's a command version or something like that. Let me get the stream back up so I can see the chat, and I will switch the camera back over. So yeah, that's a brief update from Alvin. It's really good to have him back and doing things. John too has been hard at work.
Who's
and
John
we
too? Is it this close?
We have, we're currently processing the, our neighbor for some reason has decided this particular moment to start tapping on the walls with stuff, which is great stuff. This time it's not the neighbors we can actually, influence. So yeah, a bit frustrating, but, yeah. Long and short of it is that, I've not been able to work on the Traveller stuff this week. I mean, it's a short week anyway with New Year's. I hope everyone had a good New Year's if you celebrate it. So it has been a shorter week. Even so, I've gotten a lot done on this design, and I think you can still see all of the missile systems and whatnot left over. I am very happy with the look of it. So it's kind of hard to tell unless you see it in 3D, but the angles of the fighter are quite interesting. There's been a couple of, I've thickened up the wings a little bit, that sort of thing, just for printability. You like thick wings. So, yeah, it's one of those things where, time just gets away from you. John has finished up. John and Liesl actually together have finished up the slow boat so that the instructions should be released. I believe they're already updated. I do have a few small Delta updates that I'm going to put out next week, and actually I might just load up a second version of Maya so I can show you the Delta 2400 progress. Not a whole heap has changed, but well, not entirely true actually. Some really cool stuff has happened. So I will show that off as well. But yeah, the thing that's been holding this up is like usually because we have the tribes, it's a monthly commitment. We always have to put aside some time for the tribes. It's a $5 subscription monthly, and you get something like this, which I'm starting to feel like the vehicles we're putting out maybe it's a little bit on the cheap side compared to other ones. So I hope people feel like they're getting good bang for their buck. Good morning, Brian from Ottawa. It's like commuting in an F-18. Yeah, an F-18F, maybe. This will only have a single seat, much like the Gripen E. Actually, that's not true. There is a Gripen F, but only Brazil has ordered it, not the Swedish Air Force, ironically. So yeah, I'm in the process of working on the weapons base. And again, the original intention was to just close these off. That would have been nice and simple. You might see all of these sort of like pale white lines here. This is the actual different segments of the plane, so it did need dividing up into a lot of different parts. I have iterated on that quite a bit with the physical prints. Thankfully, the parts don't take that long on the bamboo. Yeah, it is snowing here, and we've had a cold spell, although it's probably not Ottawa cold. I think it's probably about -6 or 7 today, snowing. Horrible wind chill factor, though.
Horrible wind chill?
Wind chill factor.
Yeah. Oh, wind chill factor, yes.
Yeah. So, this stream's going to have to end on time today. I can't go an hour over. Oh, we're print success. It tells me like 10 minutes after I've taken the parts off. You can see the front landing gear here hasn't been properly integrated. Yeah, my wife has arranged with her sister to have a games night tonight. But even though I'm leaving an hour or 2 hours earlier than I normally would, I can tell you right now we've got more than 2 hours worth of work. So I think I'll probably just delay it a day, come in tomorrow and get it out later on in the day. But I did want to just update on where things are at and get this show that it's actually very close. So there's a couple of things that I want to do in this session. I want to reinforce the landing gear because I know that misprinted. I need to reinforce this. This is like an example of one of our compromises, right? So let's have a look at this isolated without all of the bits and bobs. Okay, there we go. So I might turn the lights off in a second. You can see here that this is sort of like printing down on this odd angle. And we found that this was really flimsy. So what I really need to do is like essentially thicken this up so that even though it's, you know, technically wrong, it comes all the way out here or something. Because this piece actually has to print flat on this face. -11. Okay, it's pretty comparable. Pretty comparable. I'd say we're probably at 6 or 7, but the wind chill factor last night was that it was like -15, so that's quite similar. Assuming you are talking Celsius.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise that's considerably colder. Although is it -20 that they're about on parity, something like that. Anyway, yeah, the lighting here might be putting things off just a little bit. I kind of had to make some choices here about where I was going to be compromising. Sorry, I just realized my camera's a little bit off to the side. Let's see, am I centered enough now? I think so. So yeah, the original Vampyren, which means vampire, it was a sort of switchblade type configuration. So it actually had wings that could slide back and forth here. So you could enter the sort of, this is what's known as a delta wing, basically, which is actually very much in the SAAB tradition. SAAB fighters have had delta wings since Draken. And then after that there was the Viggen and the the Gripen. So Draken means the dragon. Viggen means is it thunderbolt or lightning bolt? Yeah. Lightning, something like that. And the Gripen means the griffin. So Vampyren means the vampire, and I kind of thought the fact that it was a stealth fighter and kind of looked a bit toothy with the switchblade wings extended is where it sort of got its name from. I am very happy with some aspects of the print. I might just switch this back over to the close-up camera and we'll look at it. Much like the F-22, we have our variable thrusters. They work quite nicely. And we've just reused some of the mechanics that John's come up with. I reckon it looks like a bird beak. But yeah, very happy with how that works practically. I thought about doing the stabilizers here, but ultimately it seems more sensible to just leave them in place. I think having variable vectored thrust and having these working flaps at the back and the canards is plenty of sort of surface area. So I am happy with those things. You can kind of see all the lines here. I've come up with a system to keep this more aligned, which I can show off as well. But yeah, this one's been complicated, and the reason why it's so complicated is basically all of these different, like I've looked at I've kind of mated the SAAB design philosophy with like the F-22. It's meant to be, you know, a hybrid scramjet ramjet sort of configuration, so that it is meant to be capable of high Mach velocities. Transonic? Yeah. Or hypersonic, I mean.
Yeah.
The missiles at the moment, these are just the standard version, so I probably will do maybe like a Meteor equivalent or something like that to make it fit better. Because apparently our missiles are really good. At least if you follow any of those combat simulator videos or anything like that. So, yeah, but you can see all of these jagged edges, which of course are to deflect radar signals, but it actually makes printing this in multiple parts a real pain in the ass. So it prints entirely support free. The compromise is having all of these parts that you have to kind of stick together, and I have started adding in, as you can see here, a combination of clips and the sort of plugs system that we used in Operation Maelstrom. Partially because this will just help, like the clips still do have a little bit of wobble in them. So it was enough that you could see the line differences. So just putting those in kind of like fits it into place. And it was kind of hard to see again, but if we just look at the, one of the landing gear popped out. If we just look again at the close-up, so this is the starboard wing edge. It's a little hard to see. Maybe I should flip it in this direction. And you can kind of see how jagged that edge gets. In particular, the joints along here. And you can kind of just see on the port side that that line is just a little bit more together. Really not used to this. And you can also see that that flap sits much more flush. So I could probably get this to fit together just slightly better than what it does at present. But that's where we're at.
You got a suggestion from Blasted Camouflage?
Of course, we got a suggestion. What is it this time? Needs to transform?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it would be a silly suggestion. Yeah, not this version, mate. I do have a lot of variable fighter designs. This is not one of them. So yeah. Yeah. That's kind of where we're at the moment. I might just turn up the exposure and the viewport there so we can see a little bit clearer, a little bit better. And actually, if we change the background to, hey, what's that thing? Is that a dead? No, it's not a dead pixel. Yeah, this one might be alright, just so that we've got a bit more contrast in the scene. Actually, let's put this down to 0.5. There we go. So yeah, let's look. Oh, sorry. Yes, I opened that second copy of Maya so that we can work on. Sorry, we can look at the delta and yeah. One of the challenges, I'm just going to talk about it while it loads. One of the challenges of the Delta, by the way, guys, if you were looking for the sign up for the 2400 campaign on the 6th of February, it is just about a month away from now. The reason it didn't work apparently is because it was getting 403s. So I thought it was weird we only had 2 sign-ups and it was about to, you know, go and cry in a corner. Without further advertising, I say that there's at least 30 registered now, or there were as of yesterday. So that is back and working again. So make sure you sign up for it. I probably should have saved the link. Let's see. You can see my references here for a number of things. Let's see. Frontiers. Discover. This isn't it. This is the 1700. This is sort of behind the scenes here. But if you click on Frontiers and then click on Upcoming, you should see it down here. And I can copy this link address. Where did it go? Copy link address. There we go. And I can stick that in the chat so you guys can sign up for that. I might give something away in the future, I'm not sure. It was a little too early, I just wanted to get that in. When we were releasing the 1700, of course, that dramatically failed. So, yeah, that's where that is. Now let's look at the Delta. And I must have saved this looking at some of the issues. Now, some people said that the top and the bottom of this section don't line up anymore. That is entirely true. But the top, I usually just connect here or leave it loose. If you desperately want it to match, I would say just wait another month, because we'll probably do something to fix that. Now, I need to switch out. I had to change this all up. This is presently the 2400. Now, I'm not entirely happy with the cage. I might do some further alterations to it. I'm in the process of making this separate to the rest of the cockpit. Mostly because I know this is a point of print failure. So if you're only printing this section, it's going to be a lot more easier to deal with. Also, I wanted, the idea was initially that the 2400 was going to be the final version, and that there would be a free upgrade, and we would just greatly discount the upgrade to the 2400 version, where basically it was going to be the exterior version of what became the 1700. So that's our original Delta. And then, of course, I thought, no, we should make it actually distinct. So much like the YT100 series from the Star Wars universe, this is following a similar concept. So it's certainly a similar ship design, but well enough modified that it is separate. So you can see it has a little radar. Haven't figured that out quite yet. It has brand new turrets on both sides. Now this is something we've never done before. This is basically emulating that really dodgy turret set up on the Millennium Falcon. So you would have a gunner seat in here. Let's see, and then you would, rotate the guns. Does this look familiar? Something like that. Of course, it's not actually designed to rotate in all those different directions, but yeah. Sorry, and if I click down, no, I need to select the right piece. Sorry, so it fully fits underneath, and we have test printed this. It actually works as intended. Like, it is a bit stiffer than, but that's for the best. You can actually repose it without it actually being too much of an issue. The front section here probably doesn't line up at the moment. I haven't looked at the clip holes. It certainly doesn't have the new additional clip sections in there. So a lot of potential here. You can see that it has a missile launcher as by default. It has a top airlock by default, 2 turrets, new engines. So this is basically, I looked at the CR90 blockade runner, and that was kind of the feel I was going for with these alternative engines. So I just wanted it to feel, and then of course it's got this second story. So the original cockpit's out here, this version's got an upstairs. Let's have a look at it without the top on. So I think we take off the no? What layer are these on? They're not on any layer. That's helpful, Ben. Okay, let's add these to a layer. A brand new layer. There we go, and let's just name this to top 2400. Something like that, so we can just hide it and look down into the inside. Oops, I guess we want these ones there too. And I really, really had a lot of iteration here on the actual windows. Like if I turn on my workshop real quick, you can see all the iterations I've been working with. So this is like a cleaned up, thinner version of the original. A couple, like playing with thickness and everything. It's just, this is the actual original cage. So it's like, I need to find a good compromise between visibility and printability. And I just don't know if I'm doing it right. There are some challenges to consider. So yeah, that's kind of where that is. As far as the layout is concerned, you can see here, I'll just take off the... we have the sleeping area in here. Fresher. On this side, I'm going to put in like a kitchenette and a small dining area. You know, it kind of occurred to me that we don't really have fridges and we don't really have washing machines or that sort of thing. But yeah, that's the main differences here with the 2400. So it will feel distinct and compatible with the 1700, so you could certainly use these parts, but it will feel like, you know, people are actually able to afford the upgrade. And I think what I will do is I'll say, if you just want the ship by itself, you know, say that the Frontier cost for a brand new one is like at, I don't know, 30 to 40, depending on when you get in the campaign. The upgrade version will be like $10 or something like that. But that will be the upgrade. So you'll get the 2400 version, but none of the stretch goals we unlock. And then I'll make like a supporter upgrade version, which includes the stretch goals for maybe say $20 or something like that. So we can balance things out a little bit, and you'll have some choices. So that is the idea. Let's see, maybe there are some comments here. That front hatch on the front hull where you remove the cockpit would be a great place for a bubble observation deck. Not a bad idea for a stretch goal. Certainly, if we were talking about the internal layout on our Discord, and let's see, these should be in top cockpit as a layer. So if I turn those off, and I turn off the upper hull, we should be able to see down into the deck plane. So there was a question of like, well, if we're having a kitchen upstairs and living area, do we need one downstairs? Because this could potentially be like a modular section that we swap out as some kind of stretch goal thing. So right now you might call it the configuration for having passengers, right? So you can have 4 passengers in here. They've got a sort of living area, kitchenette, that sort of thing. And then you've got the crew section upstairs, which has even more sleeping, or you could potentially, you know, share it. There is a medical corner over here. So you've got basic medical facilities. You have, you know, a dedicated shower, and you have a fresher downstairs that, you know, could be shared amongst guests. So yeah, having an observation bubble could be the way to go for, you know, a more luxury experience or that sort of thing. Certainly could be an interesting option. And then of course you've got your main cargo bay out the back. And I really do, I've really enjoyed revisiting this design, which you can probably tell from all the focus I put on it the last couple of weeks. Or month, if you want to get honest about things. So yeah, I just wanted to create a bit of a variety. Let's see. Totally Glitch says this is getting that spinal hanger bay piece when I print it. Right. Yeah. Wonder how compatible that is at the moment, because that does extend the hole basically down the middle here. So we'll see. That Blasted Samouflage says, I like the cleaned up original leftmost. I don't... Oh, right. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to there. Totally Glitch says, the blocky observation window you had in there is what I intend to use. What, just a window? That thing? Yeah, I guess you could kind of just put that ring on the front. It is inverted, which it is on the Falcon as well. I thought that was interesting when I was looking into it for more detail. Let's see. Freshers are supposed to be able to wash clothes too. I did not know that.
Oh.
That is interesting. The blocky observation window you had. Sorry, I read that one. Shergol also says, alternatively, the Larry Niven idea is that recyclable paper clothing is used for some items as well. Ew.
So you can wipe yourself after you...
Yeah, too much information, Alvin. I've missed you, buddy. That Blasted 745 said, of note, the AT hauler for Solo had an equipped shower. Okay. Modale says, secondary lounge is always welcome, but it could be repurposed to a workshop, library, bar, extra storage, etc. One suggestion was a cloakroom. I think Blasted said that. At any rate, that's why mid and high passage cabins had freshers. Okay, so they do their own laundry. I was referring mostly to the cockpits cleaned up original left. Oh, right, yes, the different variants. Yeah, we'll see what happens. See, the issue with that one... I've got to be careful of the time here. It's going to run away real quick. Oh, no. Is it hidden on another... upper hole on top of that? Yes. Okay. So, you mean you prefer this one. Which is fine. The only issue is, no matter which way you print this thing, it's going to need supports. And I might just have to live with it needing supports. But basically, the larger these curves are, the harder it's going to be to do any kind of solution. See, now, part of the reason why I've gone with this alternative, let me turn the workshop back off again and put on our top 2400 here. The reason this is a bit more cagey is because in theory I could actually straighten these out, because the issue here is if you print it out flat like this, you get to a point where you're going to have an extrusion from left to right. The only problem is these aren't straight lines. These need to be straight lines. Oh yeah, and I did actually make glass this time, so we could potentially have templates. But this could be a nightmare to set up. It would probably actually be easier to put like an inside shape underneath it. But I did notice how delicate the cage was too, so I kind of wanted to thicken it up, and yeah, I just don't know. I was looking at B-29 bombers for inspiration. That's what the Falcon's original look was based on. See, this looks kind of cool from the inside. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like it might still be too much. Possibly, you know, it's an option. Anyway, there goes the banging again. I wonder if you guys can hear that on the stream. Let's see. Motorhale says, ooh, you can also fit an arcade in the secondary lounge, like you could take on sci-fi arcade machines. Maybe sneak in a tribute to the old Virtual Worlds Battletech pods. Oh, I remember playing that as a teenager. It was so cool. Let's see. Let's close this one off and look at the work we actually got to get done today. Ben, in your parts, you referred to it as the upper deck. I sent you a direct message. Okay, thanks. I'll look at it later. Anyway, yeah, we need to fix some of these issues. I think the easiest one to look at is landing gear. It failed. Sorry, it didn't fail. Let's turn off the lighting. It's designed to print flat. You can see the peg worked great. It's quite strong. This is the flimsy part here. So really the issue is that I should have actually put in some, like an extrusion here. So if I just grab these parts, it'll be ugly on the back, but I mean, I'm not too worried about that. And if we just grab this face and get them to extrude down. Now there is some intersection. We're not really worried about that for the time being. I know it seems counterintuitive, but I'm going to align this to that, move the pivot point there, and I'm going to squish it down, and then we're just gonna grab this and have it go over to there. So we're kind of recreating some of the, like taking care of some of the issues we kind of ended up with that led to it being weakened. Now, I also need to take into consideration how this is actually slotting in and fitting. And whilst the bottom kind of has to stay that flimsy, you can see it's there's not actually intersection here. I just have this piece down there to show where the retracted landing gear is going to be. And then this little port here will be how you support the shape of the cage here. But I honestly, I don't know how I'm going to solve this one, because there are no real straight edges aside from this one. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, these might be just a little too thin, unfortunately. So I don't know. Like I said, we're a little bit out. Here is a covered version I've started to work on, but as you can see, this is by no means flat. It needs to be split up into at least 2 parts. I'm thinking this will be the split to do, but then how it fits in, nightmare. So I'm not going to get this done in time, and I'm looking at where the real weak part of this piece is, and the issue was that this arm was too thin, and I think the reason for it is it's not actually, there's not enough of it joining up down the bottom here. So if I grab this and just that, and we align it to this face, and we just bring it out, so parts everywhere. So we bring it back that far, I think it actually will be like enough. And even though it will make less sense design wise, I think we'll pull this down all the way to there, just so we're creating more of a surface area for this to connect on. And then on the side that's not touching the wall here, so we've got plenty of room on this side, so I'm just going to grab this, and I think we'll do like a point, let's try a 0.3 extrusion and chamfer. So we've just got a little bit more shape. I wonder if we can get away with anything on this side. Let's see how much room we have. So it can't intersect with that. There is probably a tiny little bit of leeway, but I'm going to try 0.1. That will just fit. And that should help also make it a little bit more snug and flush. And if I really, really wanted to, I could like make this so that there's something that actually locks in to the base there. So I probably should do that. So I'm just going to isolate these 2 different parts. And essentially what I can do is actually duplicate this, just grab that rough shape from either side, and yeah, we're just gonna essentially extrude up. Wait, we can't do that. Why can't we do that? Okay, so the reason being that this needs to be flush along the back side here. This gap is fine, but the main issue, aside from this thing being a little bit flimsy, so maybe it needs thickening up as well. Actually, why don't we grab all of this, and we'll just drag it out a little bit more, and maybe we'll drag it up as well. So I'll just turn off these, and we'll just use this face as a sort of guide point. So it's not going to be a perfect shape, and we do need to think we need to extrude here. God damn knocking. It's driving me nuts. Like, what's he doing down there?
Hammering away.
Oh, that's clear. So yeah, we'll just extrude this up. That looks a bit better. It's meant to look like it goes together, right? So all this is about is just improving the stability. It doesn't make mechanical sense. It just looks more interesting than just a stick. This is the old one and the newer one. So yeah, let's think about this frame thing again. So if we made a line across there, I don't know. I don't think it's worth it, actually. I think it fits in all right as it is. Maybe what we could do is just create something that flattens out across there. So if we grab like here or something, maybe come up just a tiny bit, and we just make an extrusion here. And this is ugly, ugly, don't do this at home, kids, sort of design work. And then we might just extrude it past just a tiny bit there, extrude it again to there, and then a third time to the edge. The edge. Wow, am I from New Zealand? That should work better. And one more time. Right to there. It's hard to see. I might turn on the wireframe. And then we'll just take these faces and bring it up to there. So, and then finally, if we just grab these faces and very manually just put them out just a tiny bit, that should give us a little bit of tolerance. And let's analyze this isolated. So it will print flat like so. We've now thickened this up. We could probably thicken it up slightly more, but I feel at the moment this is enough to warrant a test print. Need to make sure we print it fully solid too, to keep it nice and strong. The reason we print out in this orientation on FDM is so that it's kind of hard to see here, but if I oh, and this one needs to be exported to Mesh Mixer. So let's get that up and re-import it. Let's see, import, replace, and that. And then we're just going to do an export. Sometimes Maya doesn't like to export these objects properly. Sorry, landing gear port is what we're looking for. Save. Yeah, that's not going to help Alvin. Alright, and then yeah, let's get this into our slicer. So let's see, that's the stub, this is the port one, so let's reload from disk. And here you can kind of see how the main difference is between these two items when they're bulked up. So if I slice this, you can see here already the number of extrusions that are going on. But yeah, the reason we orient them in this way is because we get the strength from the PLA from this direction. If we did this standing up, we'd end up with a really flimsy piece. Trust me, this is from experience. So you can already see in the walls here that these lines are just a bit thicker, and they join up sooner. So it'll be stronger here. You've got this entire arm there. which is just longer and thicker. And yeah, I think that's going to be a good one to test. We're not going to get to test it tonight. Let's see. Maybe a bit of asymmetry to the cage cockpit would make it look better, but lots of work for that. Yeah, I mean, yeah. The blast, is the tapping Ben's telltale heart? Are there ravens in the office above the chamber doors? 'Tis some visitor, I muttered, tapping on my chamber door, only this and nothing more. Lovely that people are going all Poe on me. And then, yeah, more Poe it looks like. Revision looks much more printable. Yes, it should be. It should be indeed. Question is if we can go even further, and I think we could on the right. What I might be looking for is, well, actually, we can see that these are very thin extrusions here. But these are much thicker. So I think automatically this will be worth testing out. And I'm hoping it's sufficient enough. I was happy with the way it went in and sat in the joint. I think that worked out really well. And it can support the weight of the fighter. Yeah. But this has taken longer than I'd like to. I really want to get some of the Traveler stretch goals banged out next week. The other thing I really want to do on the Frontier is, if we go to the Frontier page, this is one of the reasons why I've done a little bit of Delta work, is I want to replace this image. Because the 2400 needs to appeal. And ideally, I would add both the 2400 and the 1700. Because there might be people that have never gotten the Delta. So, yeah. Just creating value is what it's all about, I guess, to my expense. Well, I have way too many windows open. So I would say this part, good. Let's look at the other one that we need to fix, and that's this one. So we have two main issues. This is very thin and flimsy. I don't know how, actually, because this isn't flush against the fighter as it is. I think we could actually get away with doing just a 0.1 extrusion on these upper edges. And that should just, like, for this part in particular, because the other one, the closed version prints flat. This is something we could never do mechanically at this scale. If I just go 0.1 and then 0.1 again, we've just increased the layer thickness just by a tiny little amount, but it might be enough to make a difference without it impacting the design too much. So yeah, there is still quite a bit to do with all of these. And then, you know, my main goal today was to get the landing gear out. I'm not going to get the front. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's still got another good half a day to a day left on it, which I don't like. At this point, I feel like we're putting a little bit too much time into these vehicles. But I think part of the other issue too is, like, I would never normally have done something this complex. It's just a case of I had an old model that I could convert, convince myself I could do it quickly, and you know, it's probably taken a week plus at this point. So that is the downside of having, like, monthly releases that you kind of got to take in aside from all of the other stuff you're doing. Okay, so that is not ideal. And again, this prints on this flat surface. So we're going to have to thicken this up, and I think the trick is unfortunately going to be to grab, whoops, we're going to grab and intersect some things. So I want to get my snaps on. Something like that. That is way too thick. But you know, I might move this manually. So basically, I just want these to be thick so they're not going to snap off the way they did before. And I think, honestly, I might have to take it all the way up to the top just to have the stability that's required. So if I made this fit to, say, this line, that should make it a little bit easier to sort of replicate on the other end. It's not ideal, honestly. Maybe I can add some kind of detail to it that looks more interesting. I'm actually going to delete this side for now, and we'll just work on the one side for now. We're not too worried about intersection anymore. I was to begin with, but we're not going to be bothered. We'll just let the mesh cleanup do the trick. That is lazy modeling, but there are places where you can cut costs and there are places where you can't. This is one of the ones where you can. So I'm just looking for that line to look good again, and then should be this shorter line too. So something like that looks better. We might actually do a loop or two in here, and I might even isolate this to just sort of, oops, I don't want to start typing. Let's see, got to keep an eye on the time. We've only got 10 minutes here. Looks like the chat is quiet, so I will continue on the way. So yeah, again, this is not optimal, really. I'm not pleased with it, but it is just one of those things we need to do to sort of make it work in the most Tim Gunsy way of the word. Is that my phone? Ah, I think it's Alvin's phone. Silly Alvin. Alrighty. That's weird. Anyway, it is over. So, let's see. I will drag this down a little bit. Sorry, it's really distracting when like you hear ringing and that sort of thing. So again, this is far from ideal. It's a nasty, nasty job. And it's not going to look great. So maybe we try and create some kind of pattern that's going to make more sense. Like, let's just see what we can do with the 0.1, 0.1. We still need to take this and make sure it disappears. Because again, this is our flat surface. The idea being here that we're going to continue have this really solid and supported by going all the way through, because it was just snapping here. But I don't know if it's going to work out. We'll see. So let's go 0.1, 0.1, and then what I might do is like we just get some of this, duplicate. Let's grab like this object, invert that, center pivot. We're just gonna bring it up here, and we can kind of like create the illusion. I think we might want to turn it around to 90 degrees. Yeah, that's something I didn't really consider, the fact that that's not ideal from a modeling perspective. I think the details are so small it doesn't matter actually. But if we get this, we need to rotate it. I think we do it like this. Something like that, and then we rotate it back to 45 degrees. And then, yeah, like if we move this maybe manually and duplicate it, we end up with this situation where it kind of looks like this is like some kind of extension. And maybe we can even like do the same thing up the top. Like so. And then we go object. Troligen telefonring där eller något.
Jaha, vad fan. Ja, du simmar inte?
Va? Jo.
Ja, okej.
Something like that. So it looks like it's more deliberate than it actually is. It's butt ugly, don't get me wrong. But maybe less butt ugly than it was. So, yes, I am reaching the limit of what I can do with FDM, it's true. So the next and final step is mesh, separate. We're going to get that as a separate object now. Combine it with not this one, but these four. And then we'll be able to duplicate this to bring it back here somewhere. We need to set this in. Why didn't that work? You're going back to English. Sometimes my keyboard will do this because I have an English keyboard at home and a Swedish one at work. So my Windows is like, hey, you're logged on 2 machines at the same time, but you must want the other one. So I wonder if this is the flimsier one that broke off, because it isn't ideally thickened, but I wanted to make it so that, you know, we could fit our standard missiles in anyway. It's horrible. It is horrible. Like, I fully acknowledge it, but we just kind of have to go with this. So I'm gonna. Oh, we don't have the name. Let's grab that name from there. Let's combine this, mesh, combine, history, rename it, and what side are we on? This is the starboard side actually, which is ironic, because it seems like I named the other one as starboard as well, even though it's on the port side. But let's export this one, make sure we're in STL mode, since I think this file should work. And what we want is the weapons bay open starboard. We're going to save our scene, then we're going to load up our slicer, select the starboard version, and we should see just by reloading from disk that this is thickened up significantly. Fortunately, it has preserved our orientation already. But let's just briefly compare this in the last minutes here, what the difference is. So see, this line comes all the way down now. Same on the opposite side, you can see how flimsy this was. And in fact, when we go to slice, you can see here, this is really, really thin all the way through. Whereas this version is reinforced at the places where these connectors are. So I think that should work out much better. Still going to be thin, but even like the thickness, you can see here how this is blue, indicating just a single layer there, whereas this one has gotten a second layer, which I feel much better about. So that's how we technically solve some of these smaller issues that we have. We have quite a few more to do, but now that we have a rear landing gear, it should be fairly easy to make a forward landing gear, and I'm just going to do a static in and out. The only real issue here is it's going to be impossible to use our existing stand, partially because the fighter is quite heavy, but secondly, the center of mass is like here. So yeah, unfortunately, unless we make like a special piece to go in that's much thicker, I think we might be stuck without one for now. So let's just, one last time, look at Vampyren. I'm getting pretty pleased with this. It should be out at least by the end of the weekend, I'd say. So thank you guys for joining me. I really do have to bugger off and get to this games night. Thank you for joining me. All right, have a good